please welcome Greg Stackhouse.
Thank you, everyone. So in the 90s, I was an activist. My cause was the animal welfare movement. So, we were defending animals. Fur was wrong. We organized protests. One of our main protests was at a department store that still sold fur. It was around Christmas time. We dressed up as Santa and elves and sang anti-fur Christmas carols. One of them, I remember the chorus was, "Jingle bells, fur coat sales just for vanity. How can anyone condone this needless cruelty? Hey!" And one by one, we were all arrested, and Santa was the last one hauled off at that protest. So we were, mildly successful. The leader of the group was this guy named Jeffrey, who was like a veteran. He had been through some shit, and we all knew that. He was like an older guy, one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet. We'd be driving down the road, and when bugs hit the windshield, he'd be like, "Oh, God damn it, I'm sorry, buddy." I'm talking to the bugs, that hit the windshield. Like, that's how much he cared about animals. So, we were really into this movement at the time. So, the major national protest at that time was this event in Hegins, Pennsylvania. Anyone familiar with this? It was the Labor Day Hegins, Pennsylvania pigeon shoot. So we decided as a group we were going to go represent Seattle at this pigeon shoot. So people were going to fly out there and go to this pigeon shoot in the middle of Pennsylvania, this podunk little town. My best buddy Ed, his girlfriend Diane, and I loaded up the '89 Chevy Cavalier Z24 and did this long road trip. We left Seattle, drove all the way down through California, across Texas into Louisiana. We spent a night in New Orleans, hit the Florida Panhandle, drove up the East Coast, saw the Smithsonian's, and all that stuff. We ended up in Hegins, Pennsylvania, or a little town near Hegins where everyone was lodging for the night. So, and all the big names of the animal rights movement were there. We had Paul Watson, who was the captain of the Sea Shepherd, if you know what that is. They ram whaling vessels, like very brave people who actually go out and try to interfere with whaling. So he told a story about this whale that he couldn't save, and he got there just a little too late and saw this whale sinking into the sea with its last breath and like making eye contact with him, and it was just moving, and we were riled up. Ingrid Newkirk from PETA was there. Alex Pacheco, these are the founders of PETA who had done, and we were ready for these people of Hegins, Pennsylvania. So the day before the event, Ed, myself, and Alex Pacheco and Jeffrey, our leader, decided to drive in to do some reconnaissance of the little town. So I should mention that because we were driving, everyone else was flying, we were carrying the weapons of non-compliance in our back. So we didn't know what to expect. We might hit some bad stuff with the locals. So we had these little tire poppers, which were nails that were bent into a weird shape and then welded together in case we need to toss them out the car and pop the tires of the people behind us. We also had pepper spray. And when I say pepper spray, I mean like industrial shark repellent pepper spray. Like there was this is the kind of stuff that like what is this crap, right? So this is like a foot behind me in the car. And we head into town in the Z24 Chevy Cavalier. Immediately upon entering Hegins, we're pulled over by the local police. Like immediately, like they see our washer license plates, woo! And I'm like already kind of like, oh shit! Like what have we done? And the cops come up and they ask for ID, and we all like hand our ID over. Except for Jeffrey, who's the seasoned veteran of the resistance, who's like, I don't have my ID. Don't have it. And the cops are like, all right, what's your name? He makes up some name, like not his name at all. And I'm like, oh damn, like they're gonna know, they're gonna search the car, and then we're like fucked. And then he's like, where do you live? He's like, Seattle. What's your address? And he's like, oh shit, 137 Sycamore. Spell it. Ah fuck. SYC, AMORE, which is correct, but it didn't sound like he'd spelled that 100,000 times on an envelope, right? It was like, I knew the cops knew he was full of shit, and I knew they were gonna search the car, and we were screwed. They disappear for a minute, come back, and they let us go, because apparently There were more civil rights back then than there are now. So they let us go, and we went back to the hotel. We were celebrities. Like, you guys went to town? You got pulled over? What? Oh, what happened? It was amazing. And so we're kind of like, yeah, that's right. We went to town, got pulled over by the cops. It was all cool. And we were like, for that night at least, we were like, hot shit. The next day was the protest and the event itself. So we all drove in. We parked along with all the locals in this big parking lot, and they erected this chain link fence for us to stand behind, probably for our own safety as well as everyone else's. And we were like, we were protesting, like you do. We had signs, and some guy from New York had a bullhorn. He like came up with this, like, you know what you people are? You're perverts for pigeons. Pigeon perverts. And we all like, yeah, pigeon perverts. And like, pigeon perverts. And like, meanwhile, the locals are like lining up behind us, leaning against their cars. And I'm thinking about our weapons that are like beyond where they're standing in our car. And I'm like, that was helpful to bring that shit with us. So the protest itself wasn't without some highlights. Some of our group had registered as hunters, and instead of shooting the birds, I should tell you what this is. I almost forgot. So this event is, you know what shooting clay pigeons is, yeah? We all familiar with like pull, and someone tosses a clay pigeon and you shoot it, and if you're lucky you hit it. Well, this is the same thing, but baskets of live pigeons. So yeah, they get up there and they say pull, and someone pulls a rope, and the cage opens up, and these pigeons fly up, and they shoot them. And the ones who aren't killed or get away and land are gathered by the young local boys who snap their necks and toss them in a bucket. It was a treat to watch this. I still think about this as like, yeah, it was pretty bad. So anyway, we're protesting, we're saying pigeon perverts, and at some point, Alex Pacheco, who's one of the PETA leaders, gets up there, and he's like pretending to be a hunter, but probably everyone knows who he is. And instead of like, doing what everyone else does, which is lowering their guns, he runs out into the field and starts like opening up cages, and birds are flying up. We're like, fucking yeah, shit! We're cheering. And immediately, like, the cops descend on the field to grab him, and he's like, evading them. He lays on the ground, and like, as they go to grab him, he spins out of the way, and we're like losing our minds. And it's a big event. There's like media there, and helicopters are circling overhead because this thing's been going on for years. It's kind of winding down. It's the media is deciding that they're going to leave, and so my buddy Ed decides we're going to go through the fence, and we're going to like go into the field and like keep the media here a little bit longer. I'm thinking, I don't know, man. I don't want to get arrested in this little podunk town in the middle of Pennsylvania, but he's determined. So he and some other people crash the fence and like go out there, immediately arrested. And he was not going to post bail. His idea was make them pay to jail us. And so Diane and I are like, well, I guess we're going to drive back to Seattle. And he was put into a prison with the other protesters, and they were going to be released into the general population the next day. And so we about 500 miles away from Hegins, we call his mom, and he's like, he's out! And so we turn and go get him, and made our trip back to Seattle. All told, it was about 10,000 miles on the road. And it was, I think it was worth it. Around 1998, Hegins stopped doing the pigeon shoot. It was just a little too much publicity. Maybe it was us, or whatever, but I eventually kind of fell out of the group because, there's a lot of anger in protests sometimes. And some of the new people in the group were just angry, and that wasn't who I really was. So a couple of years go by, and I'm at a job interview, and it's a nice sunny day, so this hiring manager decides to go outside for the job interview. And so we're sitting there, and I see Jeffrey come walking down the street. This is the leader of the group from years ago. He sees me, and immediately, like, just this big smile, and he like staggers up, and he like pretends to kick me in the face. And he's like, how the fuck are you? And I'm like, pretty good. And we start to kind of reminisce for a second. And I'm like, Jeffrey, I'm in the middle of an interview here. And he's like, oh shit, I had no idea. Well, good luck. And off he goes, and I got the job. Thank you.